Hi, boys and girls. I am back today with another story for you. If you remember our last story, When I Am Old with You, we were kind of looking at how the pictures can give us some extra details to tell us how a character is feeling. So today, what we are going to look at is another thing that our author and our illustrator can do with the pictures to give us some extra details of our story. So today we're going to look at how we can kind of look at the pictures to kind of hear a sound or maybe a certain sound effect in our head. And we're going to do that today with a special story called A Fine, Fine School. I'm going to go ahead and put that cover up there. So in our story today, I want you to keep a close eye out for some speech bubbles. Those will kind of look like actually, let me go ahead and put one up there for you too so you can see it. So up here, I am putting a speech bubble with the title of our story. I'm not going to say it, but you know by that speech bubble, that shows that I am supposed to be saying something. If you could imagine this was a still picture, you would know that I am saying it. So go ahead and tell me what I am saying here on my speech bubble. Very good. I said the title of our story today, which is A Fine, Fine School. So we're going to keep a close watch for those in our story because our author and our illustrator use those to kind of give us a little bit more life into our story. They kind of help us imagine that a character is speaking when we see those speech bubbles. And another thing that we are going to see in this story is the author and the illustrator are going to use some different kind of text to kind of give us a different emphasis on that word. And you'll kind of see what I mean when we get to that page. So keep a close eye out for maybe anything that looks out of the ordinary when we read our story today. So once again, it is called A Fine, Fine School. And this is by Sharon Creech, and our pictures are by Harry Bliss. Let's go ahead and get started and see if this is anything like our fine, fine school here at West Boulevard. I'd say we do have a fine, fine school, so let's see if ours is like this or not. Mr. Keene was a principal who loved his school. Every morning he strolled down the hallway and saw the children in their classes. He saw them learning shapes and colors and numbers and letters. He saw them reading and writing and drawing and painting. He saw them making dinosaurs and forts and pyramids. "Oh," he would say, "aren't these fine children? Aren't these fine teachers? Isn't this a fine, fine school?" There's Mr. Keene peeking in the doorway there, seeing all kinds of stuff going on in the classroom. Near Mr. Keene's school, Tilly lived with her parents and her brother and her dog Beans in a small house next to a big tree. On Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, Tilly went off to school. At school, Tilly learned her shapes and colors and numbers and letters. Sometimes when she saw Mr. Keene standing in the hallway, he waved. "Aren't these fine children?" he said to himself. "Aren't these fine teachers? Isn't this a fine, fine school?" On the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, Tilly climbed her favorite tree, and she took Beans on walks and threw him sticks. And she pushed her brother on a swing and tried to teach him how to skip. Let's go ahead and take a close look at this picture here. We see what I'm talking about there. So it wasn't up here in our words, but we do see an extra part here, one of our speech bubbles. That doesn't mean we can just ignore it. It means we have to go back and look and see what it says. And it says, "I'm stuck! Get help!" "Let go now, Beans." And down here at the bottom, "Be one with the skip." And this one looks a little different. That's actually a thought bubble. So what that means is our character is just thinking it. It's kind of letting us be a mind reader and showing us what the character is thinking. Kind of looks like a cloud. Kind of like if you're daydreaming, you see it in cartoons. Like when a cloud kind of appears above that character's head, we know kind of what they're thinking. But when we see a pointy rectangled one, kind of like this, we know that's a speech bubble. And that shows us that the character is saying something. Let's keep an eye out in case they appear in our story again. But on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays, Tilly went off to school. Beans and her brother did not like to see her go. Hurry, hurry, hurry home, her brother called. One day, Mr. Keene called all the students and teachers together and said, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school on Saturday, too." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on Saturday, but no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene that. He was so proud of the children and the teachers, of all the learning they were doing every day. So how do you think you would feel if Mr. Cervello came on the announcements and said, "You know what, we're going to start coming to school on Saturday"? How do you think you would feel about that? Maybe ask your teachers, how do you think they would feel about coming to school on Saturday? I know I don't think I'd want to go to school on Saturday. That's kind of my day to chill and hang out. I don't want to come to school for an extra day. Let's keep reading here. And so, that Saturday, Tilly set off for school. But it's Saturday. What about the swings? Her brother called. The following month, Mr. Keene announced, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school on Sundays, too." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on Sundays, but no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene that. He was so proud of the children and the teachers, of all the learning they were doing every day. Let's go ahead and look at our picture there. Now they just found out they're going to come to school on Sunday too. So now let's count all our days here. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wait a minute. They're coming to school every day? How do you think that would make you feel if you had to come to school every single day now? Some of you might like it, but I don't think I would. And so, that Sunday, Tilly set off for school. But it's Sunday. What about the skipping? Her brother called. The following month, Mr. Keene called everyone together and said, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school on holidays too. On Easter, on Ramadan, on Thanksgiving, on Christmas and Hanukkah. On all the holidays, on every calendar." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on holidays, but no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene that. He was so proud of the children and the teachers, of all the learning they were doing every day. So now, how do you think they're feeling now? Do you think they're fed up yet? They're coming to school every single day. No more Christmas, no more Halloween, no more Thanksgiving. We're coming to school. Do you think anyone is going to stand up to Mr. Keene? Go ahead and make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? Let's find out. And so, on Christmas, Tilly set off for school. But, but, but it's Christmas! What about Christmas? Her brother called. The following month, Mr. Keene called everyone together and said, "This is such a fine, fine school. I love this school. Let's have more school. From now on, let's have school in the summer too. All summer long, every single day." All right. Somebody has got to tell Mr. Keene. Who do you think might tell Mr. Keene that they cannot come to school in the summer? Let's find out. "How much will we learn?" he said. "We can learn everything. We will learn all about numbers and letters, colors and shapes, the Romans and the Egyptians and the Greeks. We will learn about dinosaurs and castles and everything. We will learn everything." The teachers and the students did not want to go to school on Saturday and Sunday and holidays and all summer long, every single day. But no one knew how to tell Mr. Keene. He was so proud of the children and the teachers of all the learning they were doing every day. So he is pretty excited about it. Go ahead and take a close look. How are the students feeling? Yeah, they're kind of like, "No way, dude. We don't want to come to school anymore. We need a break." This girl here in the front, she's pulling her hair out. She's had enough. Let's see if anyone can stand up to Mr. Keene. And so, on the first day of summer, Tilly set off for school. But it's summer! What about summer? Her brother called. Look at her brother there. Take a close look at that illustration. See if I can get it close there. What did the author and illustrator do? Kind of coming off his arms here and his hands. See some water drops, so we can kind of imagine in our head. He is just so surprised. He popped out of the pool. He is dripping wet. We can imagine by these little water droplets here, just what that might sound like as he's kind of going crazy that his sister has to go to school in the summer. Let's continue reading. And that day, Tilly went to see Mr. Keene. She stood in his office in front of his desk. "What a fine, fine school this is," Mr. Keene said. "What amazing things that everyone is learning."
Well, yes, Tilly said. "We certainly are learning some amazing things."
"A fine, fine school," Mr. Keene said.
"But," Tilly said, "not everyone is learning."
Uh-oh. What do you think she means, not everyone is learning? Let's find out. We're getting near the end here. "What?" Mr. Keene said. He looked very worried. Who isn't learning? Tell me, and I will see that they learn."
"Well, my dog Beans, he hasn't learned how to sit," Tilly said. And he hasn't learned how to jump over the creek."
"Oh," Mr. Keene said.
"And my little brother, he hasn't learned how to swing or skip."
"Oh," Mr. Keene said. We see another speech bubble here. It says, "Wrong way, Beans." So Beans, he doesn't know how to push on the swing. Well, he's a dog, so maybe they could teach him, but he doesn't know how. Let's continue down here at the bottom.
And I, she said.
But you go to school, Mr. Keene said, "to our fine, fine school."
Yes, true, Tilly said, but I haven't learned how to climb very high in my tree. And I haven't learned how to sit in my tree for a whole hour.
Oh, Mr. Keene said. That day, Mr. Keene walked up and down the halls, looking at the children and the teachers. Up and down he walked, up and down, up and down. What do you see everybody in the hallway doing? Big mess on the floor over here. See a student over here, he doesn't even have time to brush his teeth. Do you think Mr. Keene realizes that this might be a little bit of a problem? Yeah, I think he knows that he has a problem on his hands. Let's find out. The next morning, Mr. Keene called everyone together. The children and the teachers were very worried. Mr. Keene said, "This is a fine, fine school with fine, fine children and fine, fine teachers, but not everyone is learning." The children and the teachers were very, very worried. Mr. Keene said, "There are dogs who need to learn how to sit and how to jump creeks." What exactly did he mean? Was he going to make the dogs come to school? "There are little brothers and sisters who need to learn how to swing and how to skip." What did he mean? Was he going to make their younger brothers and sisters come to school too? The children and the teachers were very, very, very worried. What do you think he's going to do here? Is everybody going to have to come to school? "And all of you, children and teachers, you need to learn how to climb a tree and sit in it for an hour," Mr. Keene said. The children and the teachers were very worried. We see another speech bubble here. Mr. Keene saying, 20 minutes to go. "And so, from now on, we will..." "not have school on Saturdays or Sundays or holidays or in the summer." A huge, enormous, roaring cheer soared up to the ceiling and floated out the windows so that everyone in the town heard the fine, fine children and the fine, fine teachers shout, "Fine, fine, fine." We see our author and illustrator here using these big, huge words. That kind of shows us they are just chanting and shouting. They are so happy. Fine, fine, fine. No more school on Saturday, Sunday, holiday, or the summer. And the fine, fine children and the fine, fine teachers lifted Mr. Keene up, and they carried him down the hallway and out the doors and through the town, up and down, in and out. And everywhere they went, the people said, "What a fine, fine school with such fine, fine teachers and fine, fine children and a fine, fine principal." So did they solve their problem at the end of our story? Yeah, I would say they did, and I think everyone was happy about that. If you remember back in our story there, we had some new things that maybe we have not yet talked about. We saw speech bubbles. We saw our thought bubbles that kind of look like the cloud, kind of shows us what someone is thinking. And we saw how the author and the illustrator can use some different style words to show different things in our story. So they kind of help us get a different sound idea in our head. And just like when we saw the little brother in the pool, we can also kind of imagine what some of those illustrations might sound like if we saw them in person. Like the boy, he was dripping wet, and we could hear the water dripping into the pool because he was so surprised that his sister was going to school in the summer. So I hope you liked our story today, and let's hope that in the meantime, Mr. Cervello does not make us have to come to school on Saturday and Sunday and Halloween and Christmas coming up, because I don't think I would like that very much. All right, thank you for reading and listening with me today. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.